In 1952, deep in the Canadian winter, a young U.S. naval officer crawled toward a melted nuclear reactor, and that man would one day become President Jimmy Carter. This is the story of how Canada and a future American president worked together to stop a nuclear disaster. In this video, we'll unpack what went wrong at Canada's Chalk River reactor, how a young Lieutenant Jimmy Carter ended up inside a damaged nuclear core, and how this moment of U.S.-Canada cooperation shaped nuclear safety and Carter's own presidency. Our story begins at Chalk River Laboratories, about 200 kilometers northwest of Ottawa. Canada's NRX research reactor was one of the most advanced in the world. But in December 1952, a series of malfunctions and human errors led to a dangerous power surge. Fuel rods overheated, and some actually started to melt. Radioactive water flooded into parts of the basement. The good news? No one was killed. Canadian crews and scientists moved quickly to stabilize the situation, but the damage to the NRX reactor was serious, and the radiation levels near the core were extremely high. Canada needed extra help. That's when the United States Atomic Energy Commission and the U.S. Navy stepped in. At that moment, James Earl Carter was a young lieutenant in the U.S. Navy's nuclear program. He'd been trained in the brand new field of naval reactors. When the call came, Carter was assigned to a small team of U.S. officers sent to Chalk River to help with the cleanup and dismantling of the damaged reactor components. Before anyone went near the damaged core, the Canadian and American teams did something ingenious. They built a full-scale replica of the NRX reactor without fuel and used it as a training ground. Carter and his team rehearsed every motion they'd have to perform inside the real reactor, over and over, until they could do it in less than 2 minutes. When it was finally time to go in, the rules were strict. Radiation near the damaged core was high enough that Carter's team could only work in bursts of about 90 seconds. Wearing protective gear, they would sprint into the reactor area, unbolt and remove specific pieces, then race back out before their time was up. Then the next crew would follow, each one picking up exactly where the last had left off. The exposure was real. Carter later recalled that his urine was radioactive for months afterward. But the work his team and their Canadian counterparts did helped dismantle and stabilize the damaged reactor, making it possible to rebuild. About 14 months later, NRX was back online, running at lower power, but operating safely again. For Canadians, Chalk River became a story of international solidarity. Canadian scientists and workers, supported by American nuclear experts, including a future U.S. president, facing a dangerous problem together. In nuclear safety circles, the accident also pushed improvements in reactor design and operations. For Jimmy Carter, Chalk River was more than a daring mission. It helped shape how he thought about nuclear power, technology, and risk views he would carry into the White House years later. When you hear about presidents and nuclear policy, remember this frozen Canadian reactor hall and the day Canada and a future American president worked together for good. If you'd like more in-depth stories like this, subscribe for our next deep dive into hidden moments of North American history.